Hi, it's Lauren filling in this week for the Weekly Sizzle. I'm here to fill you in on a couple stories that caught my eye this week on 1851 that I thought were worth a second look. I feel like I would be doing myself a disservice if I didn't promote my own column in the Weekly Sizzle. So I wanted to talk about my column from a couple weeks back about public speaking and give you just sort of my overview on the topic. I think a lot of people are terrified of public speaking. I actually included the famous quote from Jerry Seinfeld about how people's number one fear is public speaking, followed by death. And if death is number two, that means that at a funeral, people would rather be in the casket than delivering the eulogy. And for me, it's always been something that has sort of come second nature to me. And I think people get really wrapped up in having to speak in front of groups. And I taught public speaking to college kids, which if you're gonna teach public speaking to anybody and learn how to impact someone, starting with a group of college kids is a really good way to do it. So I kind of went through a couple of different tips on here. The first one was that it could always be worse. Every time I give any sort of presentation or have to speak in front of a large group of people, I think back to when I was a junior in college and I was about to give a speech on abortion, which was, certainly now and even more so at the time was a very controversial topic. And right when I was about to go up to give my speech, our teacher let us know that one of the Twin Towers had been hit. And it was the first we had heard about it, and in that situation, we didn't have, I had a cell phone, but it was a giant Nokia phone. I couldn't look online to see what was going on, but all we knew was that something really, really bad happened. But the show must go on. So she had us give our speeches, and it was very stressful. I was very rattled during that speech. I was able to pull it off, but every time I have to give a speech, I think back to that moment, and I'm like, if I'm talking to a group of franchisees or if I'm even talking to a group of 10 people at a new client meeting, I always remember that moment and I think to myself, this is nothing compared to that. I also always want to tell people that it's not what you say, it's how you say it. I had 6 different classes of students during my 2 years of teaching, and one stands out more than anybody because he was a class clown. He was the one that, annoyed me but amused me the most at the same time. And when I assigned a persuasive speech, I had told them that they could pick whatever topic they want. They could say blue is the best color, or the sky is actually green. Whatever they picked, as long as they had supporting material and delivered it well, was fine with me. And he gave a speech on if a tree falls down in the forest and no one's around to hear it, it doesn't make a sound, which is a topic that I sort of internally rolled my eyes at, and he nailed it. I mean, he gave quotes from physicists about why it doesn't make a sound, and while the topic was ridiculous, he was engaged and everybody was captivated. So I always try to tell myself that even if you're giving a presentation on something that's really boring, you can liven it up just by the way that you tell the story. And my last tip is not don't use note cards, because I'm clearly using note cards. It's don't read to your audience, speak to them. I think people forget that they're talking to a group of human beings, even if it's a big group of human beings. We give the same advice to franchisees and our clients when they're about to do an interview. It's just a person. You're just having a conversation with someone. Try to remember that before you're going in, that you don't have to be a robot, having personality, and not reading off of note cards and sort of digesting your notes as you speak versus reading bullet points off a PowerPoint presentation. No matter what the content is, even if you seem too casual or nervous even, as long as you're not just reading in front of the group, you're going to be successful. So I'm certainly no expert, but I thought it might be helpful just to give some tips on a topic that people are terrified of. My last story this week is about the founder and president of Topper's Pizza, Scott Gitrich. I just got back from the Topper's convention in Wisconsin Dells a couple weeks ago, and we go to a lot of conventions and we see a lot of different CEOs and founders speak, and he stands out to me as someone that cares so much about his franchisees and knows them all by name. And you see him at the cocktail hours talking to a new general manager that they brought, and he really makes his way around and makes sure that he has touch points with everyone in the business. And that goes such a long way with that brand in terms of the attitudes. I mean, I have never seen a group of people more excited about something in as long as I can remember. He got up, gave a speech about the growth of the company, and that was a really big theme that kind of resonated throughout the entire conference was that Toppers is a brand that's tripled in size over the past couple of years and is not stopping until they achieve world domination. And I really believe that they're going to do it just based on the passion of the corporate team, especially with Scott Gitrich, and the passion of the franchisees and the people that work for them. And the story on 1851 is just about, how they're going to grow, that they're now reaching a point where they feel like the growth needs to accelerate. They're at over 70 locations now, which is crazy, and they're not stopping. And he is someone that worked his way up from kind of the corporate big box pizza chains and was working at one of them and said, this is crap. I could do this better. And a lot of people say that and a lot of people think that, but not that many people do that. And he decided he'd had it with crappy pizza and started Toppers in 1991, and now it's a flourishing company that has a culture that is more magnetic and more contagious than anybody that any other company that I've seen in recent years. And so I felt I needed to highlight him because I was inspired by hearing him speak at convention, and I think the story's a really good read by Andrew Stern on our team. And my last note for the Weekly Sizzle is Shannon is one of our writers here at 1851, and when she started, she introduced the 1851 Weekly Web Roundup, which I think is awesome. She polls the staff and says, what's the most interesting, cool, weird, scary, awesome thing you've read this week, and she compiles them, which I like because I don't always have time to go looking for interesting articles, and it's sort of a condensed snapshot of cool stuff people read this week. And I like that she names us by name, even though I probably could pick out some of the articles based on the topic on who from No Limit picked them. But you should definitely check out the Weekly Web Roundup too. Thank you so much for tuning in to my debut on the Weekly Sizzle, and we'll see you next week. I hope I didn't bore you too much. I shouldn't say that, probably. Nope, let's do another one. I'm panicking. Week to get the top stories presented. I'm out. I can't do it. I don't know what to say.